So can you see my screen?
With the virtual QE center and green.
Exactly. Yep. You got it. You got it. Okay. So yes, welcome and thank you for joining this webinar on video work instructions. My name is Joshua Schnorr. I am the Business Development Manager for Virtual QE. We are a full-service quality engineering consulting company that specializes in what we're going to talk about today. Our bread and butter is video work instructions. And I'm excited to share it with you. It's an innovative solution to the number one problem in our billion-dollar industry, which is labor availability. And over the next 20 minutes, we're going to talk about what we do, how we do it, and more importantly, why it's important for you as MEPs to, as you scratch the marketplace trying to offer valuable solutions to your customers, as well as increase your impact numbers. Joined with us on the call, to my knowledge, is the MEP consultants from Northwest IRC, as well as a few MEP consultants from IMEC in Illinois, as well as a few MEP consultants from Primex in Puerto Rico. So, like I said, for 20 minutes, I'm going to talk about how we do it, and then I guess another 20 minutes of question and answer. So for purposes of the webinar, if you have questions, you can either chat them, of course, or you can hold them to the end for the question and answer session. Either way, it's fine with me. So with that being said, without further ado, let's get into it, if that's okay. So we're talking about video work instructions, and I don't think anybody on the call would argue that video is a more effective way to transfer information from one individual to the next. The question is why? Why is video better? We're going to talk about that for just a second on this slide. And if you would, just humor me for a second, because we're going to go on a magic school bus ride and talk about the human brain, because ultimately the gist of what we're talking about today is the fundamental yet paramount truth about how the human brain receives information, retains it, and utilizes it to perform skilled tasks. And to talk about that, we talk about the human brain, how it's separated in different lobes, specifically the occipital, parietal, and frontal lobe. The occipital lobe in the back, which is the red lobe, it's responsible for receiving things that your eyes see, okay? Then it passes the information to the parietal lobe, which is responsible for memorizing, okay, so I've seen those letters before, or I've seen those letters come together before to make a word. The parietal lobe then sends that information to the frontal lobe, and it's the frontal lobe that we're actually interviewing folks for when we interview them for jobs, because it's the frontal lobe that takes the information that's received from the occipital, the parietal, and it actually says, you know what, I've seen these words before. If I put them together, it makes a sentence. This is sarcasm. This is literal. It's the frontal lobe that really digests all that stuff. And the transfer of the information, what's important to note about all that is that the transfer of information is called synaptic transmission, and it happens 60,000 times faster with video than it does with text. So with that being said, that's why video is so much more effective than text, is because it actually activates so much more neurons in your brain, which equates to memorizing things faster, memorizing things longer, and being able to access them in your brain much quicker and easier than you would if you were just learning via text. So it's not just true for one person, it's true for every person. And there's science behind what we're going to talk about for the rest of the day today, or for the rest of the times today. With that being said, before we talk about the mechanics of how the solution works, let's talk a little bit about the needs that it actually solves, the problem that it actually solves. So on the screen are the top 4 needs in our industry that I have identified, not in any particular order, but number 1, bridging the skills gap. Really, I kind of divide that into 2 different categories. On a macro level, which is the pure volume of technicians that will be leaving the workforce in the next 10 years. Studies show that 22% of existing workforce right now will disappear in the next 10 years as a result of retirement only. Just having to do with labor age, average labor age. In the next 10 years, 22% of the workforce will be gone. So on a macro level, how do we capture that knowledge that those individuals have now, and when they walk out the door, certain things that cannot be written down on, no matter how thorough the work instructions are, how do we capture that information and retain it, so then the next 10 years it doesn't also leave with those people. Secondarily, on a micro level, bridging the skills gap is talking about the available talent pool that's available to your customers right now. Overall, the awareness of manufacturing and the experience of manufacturing is much lower than what they're requiring and desiring to fill these positions. And so that's on a micro level, talking about the skills gap. How do we get these people to perform, to be performers and add value on day one of the job when they're coming in the door with less experience than we wanted in the first place? Number two, production ready training. Everybody's got training. I mean, that's a must. We have to have that, right? But what everybody doesn't include is training that includes quality, training that includes speed, and another one is kind of a silent one is training that includes retention. Training that includes people being comfortable with their role and with the resources that they have at their fingertips for their role, that they actually stay. Number three, tribal knowledge. We talked about that for a second, but ultimately what that's talking about is the things about the task that cannot be written on paper. There's certain stations, there's certain operations that if you try to write it down on paper, you just can't, because it's different, a little bit different every time, so forth and so on. Capturing the tribal knowledge, and furthermore, how to disseminate it to the people who don't have it is a big need in our industry. And then last but certainly not least, quality. How do we get folks to do it the same way every time? Oh, and by the way, not just the same way every time, the best way every time. And so as we go through this presentation, these are the needs that we're going to address today. And these are ultimately, when we get into the ins and outs of the solution, what you're going to be able to talk about with your customers. So with that being said, how does it work? We create instructional videos for the manufacturing floor that replace the text work instructions that they currently have. Okay, and how we do it is we use safety glasses replacements that have a camera in the center of the frame. The idea is your expert operator wears the glasses, the person who has the tribal knowledge, the person who's been there for 30 years and knows things that aren't written down. Okay, you give him or her the glasses, they wear them, they record while they perform the task. The task is being recorded in the first person view. The glasses also, they record video, picture, and they also record audio. So while the person's performing the task, ideally they're also talking to the task about certain things, of why they're doing certain things, why they're not doing certain things. And then ultimately, we take that footage, okay, send it to us, and we edit that footage. We include the quality inputs, the things that we have, the knowledge that we've gained over, editing these videos for multiple industries and multiple customers, the tips and tricks that we've learned about studying synaptic transmission and how the human brain prefers to receive the information in order to retain it effectively and efficiently. And we answer the questions that a first-time operator would ask before he or she asks them. We also address the mistakes, the most common mistakes that an operator would make before they make them. And ultimately, when we're done with the video, it comes in the form of an MP4 file that the customer can integrate or implement on whatever technology that they choose. Tablet, phone, computer, if they have an existing software, ERP software. But ultimately, the video is usually about twice the length, sometimes it's more depending on the station, twice the length of the production speed video, right? Because it incorporates tips and tricks, it freezes, it zooms, it calls out certain numbers. And, there are two main types of videos that we make. One video is the type where the operator has the privilege of accessing the video while they're performing the task. The other type of video that we make is when the operator does not have that privilege and has to watch the video in a classroom type setting. It's in those types of videos that we use a lot more of the training within industry methodology for the classroom video, because the goal is to get them to remember as much as they possibly can before they go on the work, before they actually make it to the work floor. So with that being said, we take the footage, we edit it, and we give it to the customer. It's on an MP4 file. From there, usually there's iterations, right? There's maybe we catch everything on the first video. Maybe there's someone still making a common mistake in a certain area, and it requires, you know, some tweaks and some edits, and that's part of the package. Okay, now that we've talked a little bit about how we do it, going back to those needs in the industry, the ability to create work instructions 10 times faster. If someone's got a new contract and they have to create work instructions, it's a no-brainer. When you add up the time, effort, energy that it would take someone to hire an engineer to create work instructions for a new contract versus the time, effort, energy, and cost it is to hire us, it's a no-brainer. Okay. The ability to train and cross-train quickly and effectively. I mean, we can demonstrate that on the spot. I mean, the low-hanging fruit is the ability to train individuals for a workstation fast. That's the low-hanging fruit. We can prove that on the spot. We have two main metrics that we use. One is how fast can an individual perform the task without making a mistake. The second metric is how fast can an individual perform the task without making a mistake at production speed. Those are the two metrics that we use. And the big problem that we're trying to solve, however, is the answer to the question, what could your organization accomplish if labor was not a limiting factor? Those are much bigger problems than onboarding a certain station that has a high turnover, which is very important as well. The capturing of tribal knowledge, obviously it's on video. You store it forever. Sometimes you have customers that have contracts that come every 5-10 years, and they may not need to review those instructions for 3 to 5 or whatever years. This is the best way to store the best practices of a contract or of a task, and with the ability to access it anytime. And then at the end of the day, this is a quality product. I mean, a quality engineering product. That's what we specialize in. The idea behind the first person view plays into the tips and tricks that we use as it pertains to synaptic transmission. The science behind it is called behavior modeling. So when people actually see the video, they involuntarily want to do the video exactly how the video is doing it. And therefore it creates standardization among the process from one person to the next. And obviously standardization is a friend of quality. And ultimately, this product should decrease your human errors, increase your standardization, and therefore increase your yields. Traditionally, industry has tried to bridge this skills gap by raising the awareness and the knowledge of the existing talent pool by community colleges, trade schools, and the like. And it's done a good job of increasing the overall awareness and education of manufacturing. But when it comes to part-specific, job-specific tasks, everyone has to learn on the job, okay? And so what we're doing is we're bridging the skills gap from the other end of the space. We're saying, how about you lower the amount of experience and the amount of knowledge that's needed from the technician, okay? We're saying that if you put the task on video, it actually lowers the amount of experience that's needed to perform the task accurately. And so we're bridging the skills gap from the other side, if that makes sense. Okay, moving along. That's all nice. Show me how it works. I want to see it. So if you pay attention to the screen, I'm going to play a demonstration here, a recorded demonstration. And yep, there it goes. Okay. And let me explain a little bit what you're about to see. So what you're about to see is an operator who has never sat in that chair before. He has never seen our video work instruction before, but he's sitting down, he's looking at one of our video work instructions. In the top right-hand corner with the blue gloves is his boss. His boss put on the glasses, recorded the task, we took the footage, we edited it, and created this video work instruction that the technician in the black shirt is using as his only training resource to be able to complete this task. The video is playing at 3 times speed right now, but you get the idea. And what's important to note is that before we did this, we asked the supervisor, what's the fastest anyone's ever been able to do that task without making a mistake, our first metric. The manager said it took 3 days. 3 days of somebody trying to do it without making a mistake, without any help whatsoever. 3 days is the fastest somebody's been able to do it. A week was the longest. That person didn't stay. With that being said, what's important to note about this demonstration, you'll see as we get here to the end, is this individual was able to perform the task his very first time without making a mistake. Now, he did not do it at production speed. He froze, he rewound. There was actually a couple of times where he did it right, but because he didn't do it exactly how it was done in the video, he kind of rewound himself and started over. Just substantiating my point about the behavior modeling and the increase in standardization for how a task is performed. A couple of things you'll notice as you're watching this. One is, this is not a Steven Spielberg film. Like, we do not create Hollywood quality videos. They're not for pleasure of viewing. They're for practicality. They're for usefulness. We want to make a tool that allows for the task that we're trying to perform. This isn't pleasure viewing. Another thing that you'll notice is that there are subtitles. I just put that on there so that you can see the versatility in the product. You can have the audio in English, the subtitles in Spanish, or vice versa. And it's a really great way to bridge language barriers in our industry. So we talked about the science behind video. We talked about the needs of the industry, the solution, a little bit how it works, how it addresses those needs. We saw a demonstration. Let's talk for a second about why someone would consider hiring us to do this service. For one, it is a textbook outsourceable service. I mean, unless someone already has the expertise on staff to take footage, do editing, then it really doesn't make sense for someone to hire, to implement, and then fire after it's done. Furthermore, we are experts in the space. I mean, our manufacturing experience combined with quality engineering experience puts us on the far left brain category, right? But our execution team, the ones who actually create the videos, they're right-brained graphic designers and gamers. And when you mix the left brain and the right brain abilities together, it makes for a very powerful tool. Furthermore, we're first movers in the space. To our knowledge, there isn't anybody else in this space, in our industry, that's doing what we do. We've seen other people do video. Don't get me wrong. We've seen other people use video, but the difference and the value that we add is that we include the document control on the video. So we have a patent pending on the marriage of the video with the document control that's required for the customer to stay in compliance with their certifications. May it be AS9100, ISO, FDA, the document control that has to be present on the work instructions in order to stay in compliance. We include that, and we have a patent pending on that. And so those are some of the reasons why someone might use us. Furthermore, there's some quotes on the screen of past and present customers. My favorite one is the second one that talks about the accelerated results that come from using a personal trainer in the gym. I personally have gone to the gym for most of my life without a personal trainer, by the way. And the reason being is because I was getting along just fine without a personal trainer. And for the most part, your customers are getting along just fine. People are getting along just fine without work instructions, without video work instructions, I'm sorry. But it was that experience that I had when I got to try a personal trainer and see that when I changed just certain changes that I made all the world of a difference in the accelerated results that I'm looking for. And ultimately, that's what video work instructions will do also. It accelerates the results in the categories of training, cross-training, onboarding, and then there are big ticket results. Once a customer has an area of their plant, or better yet, their entire plant on video work instructions, there are larger metrics that a customer can start to measure, and larger goals that a customer can start to reach for. For instance, improving their on-time delivery percentage. Most times, it's a function of being able to add bodies. Well, we can't add bodies if there's no available bodies to pull from. With video work instructions, it makes that stack of resumes on the desk that haven't had enough experience or knowledge to be placed on a skilled task. It makes that stack of resumes much more attractive, because now most of those individuals could actually perform the task, if not all of them. Another reason why someone might use us, this matters to some people, it doesn't mean much to others, but we as a company donate 10% of every dollar that we make to 501c3 of our choice. We are very passionate about children and families, specifically orphans and fosters, and so we have we eventually hope to have a 501c3 ourselves, but for now we just partner with organizations of our choice. So I've said a lot. I know we're getting close to my 20 minutes here. Let's talk about the numbers. So first of all, I don't give prices to customers. 9 times out of 10, it's going to be an MEP giving the quote to the customer, because they've received a quote from my office that they've either marked up or adjusted however that they do business with their customer, right? And then we invoice that MEP. So for purposes of this call and the audience that's on this call, I thought that was important to mention that, it's a little different from office to office. I'm noticing we're already doing business with some offices, and, so that's we're trying our best to standardize how we operate amongst the entire MEP network, but we do notice that there are some nuances between office and office. But safe to say that our prices to the MEPs are $450 per video or $750 per video. And the difference there is if there's existing work instructions for us to go by. If there's existing work instructions, we charge a little bit less, because some of that work is done for us, right? Like we're able to utilize some of the information that we gain off of the existing work instructions. The maintenance fee that you see on the bottom of the screen is 25% additional to the numbers that I just told you. And what the maintenance fee includes is unlimited revisions of that video for a year. So this is the last slide before I open up for questions and answers. And really what I want you to take away on this slide, a couple of things. One is everybody sees the low-hanging fruit, which is the ability to train faster and cross-train faster, right? And this is a chart that we sat down with a customer who was already finished with most people, they want to try it before they buy it, right? Like they're not trying to put their entire plant on video work instructions after just one meeting, right? So usually they buy a small portion and they kind of try it and they see the benefits. But this was a customer that had gotten past that point, and then we started to talk about big goals, big aspirations for what they wanted to try to accomplish, ones that they didn't think had anything to do with video work instructions. But when we peeled away the layer of the onion, it always boils down to labor availability, skilled workers, and how many do they have access to. And so what you'll see is a very big jump. Okay, it's not a linear relationship. The benefits of work instructions are not linear. It's not like you buy 2 and you get 2 more units of benefit. It's by section, right? So like, I'll give you an example of some of the bigger ones down at the bottom. At the very bottom, maintain and acquire contracts. This customer said that if they were able to improve their on-time delivery, there was a contract that they were going to lose if they didn't do that. And so one of the goals was we need to get to their target on-time delivery. Our solution was saying, well, if you added more bodies in this section and that section, and it turns out to, that's the strategy. So really what I want you to see is that everybody starts out with the cross-training, the low-hanging fruit, but ultimately, make no question about it, the big picture's problem that this solution solves is the things that you could accomplish if you can add bodies that add value immediately. Once again, video work instructions does not make your best people any better. It's your best people that made the work instructions. What video work instructions does is give you more of those best people, because now that tribal knowledge is easily disseminated to people that you've hired from Macy's or Burger King or the competitor that may or may not have experience with manufacturing, but certainly don't have experience with the part-specific tasks that you hired them for. So I think that I went over my 20 minutes by just a hair. Unless Jerry or Andy, you have any other, anything particular, I would like to open up for questions right now.
Any questions?
Yes, Joshua, can you listen to me?
Yes, sir, I hear you.
Yes, just one question regarding the maintenance fee. I didn't quite understand what you said.
Okay, yeah. So let me repeat that. Let me repeat that very quickly. So essentially, the maintenance fee is 25% additional to the cost of the work instruction. So if somebody has a work instruction that they want to convert from text to video, it's going to cost them $450 for the work instruction, and then an additional 25% of 450 something bucks. That would include unlimited revisions to that work instruction for a year. And that's how we address, the first run is not perfect, or like there was something, or even, every plant should be practicing continuous improvement. And then if within a year there's some revision to that process that makes their work instructions out of date, well, we include that revision with the if a customer purchases the maintenance package.
Okay, all right. So it's basically an insurance that you'll keep updating the latest way of doing things over there, right? Yes. Okay.
Yes.
All right, and yep. Would that be for a number of years?
1 year. It's an annual. The maintenance fee is an annual cost. So after a year's time, okay, the customer will be up for renewal for their maintenance on the video work instructions that they purchased. And at that point, they're only paying the $120. They're not paying the $475 or whatever it is for the work instruction and the maintenance package. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yes. Understood. Thank you.
Yes. Good question.
Joshua.
Yes, sir.
Yes, this is Bob in Pennsylvania. And my question is related to training within industry. I heard you reference tools and techniques of training within the industry on this call, and I've also heard it discussed on other conversations. So can you just clarify how those techniques and methodologies, when they're applied in the video editing process? And I think you said on this call, at least I thought I heard you say that it had to do when it was more of a classroom training versus a on-the-job type training. So just bring some clarity to all that if you can.
Yeah, so in general, we use the TWI methodology as much and as often as we can. You'll see it a lot more prevalent in the classroom style video that we make. I myself am not TWI certified, but we have engineers on staff that are, and so they're the ones who kind of give the input to the, once the editors have done what they do, then it kind of goes to the engineering team to add the things that the TWI, making sure that there's like, for instance, they use certain colors for comments and certain colors for questions. They use if it's a classroom setting, there'll be it'll be one video, but it'll be like the first time they watch it, they'll have sound, comments, and audio, and then the next time they watch it, they take away some of the senses, and so by the time they watch it the third time, it's without sound or comments, and so we try to make it interactive so that they would have to guess what the next step is. Once again, in the hopes that after they've watched the video one time, classroom setting, it's really like 3 times that they watch it, because the video kind of takes away some of the senses every time, every iteration, if that makes sense, so that they memorize as much as they can when they go to the production floor. Bob, did that answer your question?
Yes, so it does apply to both the video work instructions that might take place on the job, but also in the classroom. So it is applicable to both.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And in general, what we're talking about is we're breaking down the entire task into key steps and critical steps within each key step, talking about the setup, the breakdown, the tools. You know, that's you know that kind of stuff will be present on both videos. But like I said, in a more traditional sense, where you guys would instantly recognize that this is TWI, would be you know, that would be more catered towards the classroom style video that we make. So did that answer your question, Bob?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Yes, Joshua, this is Julio again from Primex. Regarding the video, once the customer sends the video to you, do you sort of, in some instances, adjust the speed and that sort of thing so that it's easier for the participant to grasp what's going on?
So Julio, if I understood you correctly, you were asking me if how we actually give the video to the customer, and then furthermore, I didn't understand that second part of your question about being able to see it easier. Can you repeat that second part?
Yeah, I don't know if the customer himself takes the video using your equipment, right?
Right.
And then he forwards that to you. What I'm asking is if you sort of adjust the speed at which the work is performed so that the student or the person that's taking the training will be able to grasp easier the different elements of the operation?
Right. Okay. I got you. Yes, I got your question now, Julio. So the first part of your question is about getting the video to the customer. So we have very secure methods of transferring this proprietary information from their offices to our office. And there's options that a customer has based on how proprietary stuff is. They have some options on how to get the material to and from. Of course, there's NDAs in place wherever we need to do NDAs. We understand that privacy and proprietary intellectual property is very important. The second part of your question, Julio, is yes, absolutely. During our editing process, we freeze, we speed up, we cut, we zoom in, we zoom out. We do the things that we feel like would be necessary for that person to capture what's important at that stage of the video. Sometimes we actually even use footage besides just the glasses. Like if there's a screw that's really hard to see or to get to, and the only way, to see it is to put your iPhone up and, up somewhere and to get a third person view, or like a cable camera or something like that. So we will use other means of visuals besides just the glasses. It's just that the glasses are the primary tool that we use for the reasons of behavior modeling and standardization that I talked about earlier.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. Thank you. That does answer my question. Yes.
Okay. While you guys are also thinking about questions, I just thought of something else I wanted to share. We started in aerospace, automotive, and medical device because that's where the company's existing customers for traditional quality engineering was, right? It's just been since this year that we've been doing these video work instructions. And so we started in those industries and places where we already had relationships. And since then, we've branched out to service organizations. We have, right now we have a little experience with food manufacturing, and so for the service organizations, it's more like a library, right? Like for one company, we put together a library that they're able to give to their new hires or even their experienced hires that haven't performed tasks in a long time, right? And so it's something they take with them to the job site, a tablet in the form of a tablet, and based on what the operation is what video that they watch. And there can be, if-then statements. If it looks like this, click this video. If it looks like that, click that video. The other thing I wanted to mention was we have partners for how these videos are broadcasted. We don't manufacture any of the tools that I'm going to tell you about, but we do have partners that we partner with to offer, ergonomic displays of the videos. So for instance, you can, there's wristbands that you can see it on your wrist. There's clips that go in your hard hat. There's augmented reality glasses that you can wear and watch the video in the glasses while you're performing the task. Some pretty cool and interesting options. Obviously, they come with the more cool they are, the more the price tag is. But the base model, the base offering is the MP4 file that we get to the customer, and they decide whatever technology they want to put it on. Any other questions? I would also mention that we're currently doing business with a number. I've lost count actually of the MEP firms that we've signed on as third-party partners. Seems like that's pretty much the common model, is that we've been signing on as third-party partners. I'm happy to talk through the details and logistics of kind of how those agreements are written with organizations uniquely, because I know it's different every organization. But I just want to offer that information that we are currently doing business with multiple MEP offices, and every day we sign on with another MEP to be a third-party partner, so that we can kind of officially start talking about the opportunity that they're bringing to the table. We've also had some momentum before we met the MEP network, and so there's places where we're able to bring MEP customers to an opportunity as well. There's been at least 3 times that that's happened so far. Any other questions? I guess I would ask, what is the next step for me? As I guess is currently we're working on videos. We're working on we first of all, we use our own product to train our own people, right? So as we onboard and we teach people how to edit these videos and how to create the content, we're using video work instructions to teach these folks. Similarly, we're going to be using video work instructions. We're creating the content now to put in the hands of MEP consultants like yourself to make you dangerous, right? We're going to have like kind of a 101 and a 102. 101 is kind of what we had today on this call. 102 is getting down to the nitty gritty details about how to qualify an opportunity to know that that the ground is fertile for this conversation about video work instructions, and questions, getting into the details about what we use to transfer the information. So we are certainly committed to providing the support and the assistance needed to be able to close these deals. But we also know that it's your relationships in your local areas with people that you've been doing business with for years that get us, that's able to get us even in the door. And so we want to bend over backwards for you to make sure that it's easy for you, as easy as you want it to be. And that includes us being completely invisible to your customer if you desire that, all the way to, us carrying, doing the heavy lifting on conference calls and, whatever it may be.
Good to hear.
Would you say that again?
Good to hear that you're flexible.
Sorry, man. I still didn't understand what you said.
No, that you're flexible. That's good.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So they're not quite ready yet, but soon I will have a link to be able to send out to all the MEP offices that we're partnering with, that we're working with, and, MEP will be able to click on that link with a password to be able to access videos, based on where their interest level is and where their knowledge level of the product is. It'll have, ample information for you to walk into a customer's office and pitch the idea, all the way from pitching the idea to closing the deal. Hey, Andy, are you in the room, or is all the NWIRC folks in the same room together?
Yes. Yes, we are.
Okay, good deal.
There's 8 of us.
Eight people. Okay, great. So for the NWIRC office and the IMEC office, we're already signed and we're on board with you guys. And it's just, this call was really for the purpose of people who don't know what we're doing to kind of just get a sniff of what it is and what it looks like. I'm happy to go into more detail, or even better yet, to have, conference call or support your sales efforts. Julio, pretty soon, I'll meet you pretty soon, and we'll be over there at the factory together in a couple weeks, and looking forward to working with your office. So with that being said, is there any follow-up that I can do on this call? Is there anything I can do besides this presentation to support either 3 of you offices at this moment?
Hey, Joshua, this is Bob at NWIRC. I guess I'll ask at this point. So, we had the one video that we've been involved with, as you know, and, we found, I guess, the length of the video, was more than maybe what we thought it might be when we presented pricing to the client. Any suggestions on how we move forward with that kind of scenario? Because it's almost hard to predict what that length of time might be, and how would you suggest that we price that up to the client?
Yeah, good question, Bob. So for interest of everybody on the call, what happened was we had a contract for a try it before you buy it, and the customer, we sent the hardware, the customer captured the footage. They did a great job. They wanted one video, okay, and we consider a video to be about 10 minutes long. Typically, we'll say, $45 a minute or $75 a minute, but that equates to the 10-minute videos pricing that I showed you earlier on the. So you can say, one way or the other, that's how we come up with the pricing. So essentially, the customer sent us a video that was an hour long and wanted a 10-minute video. When we peeled away the layers and when we looked at the process, we got it down to 22 minutes and some change, I think is what it was. And we didn't feel that we could edit any more of that video and still accomplish what we talked about on this call, which is having a first-time operator be able to do it correctly the first time. We can make a 10-minute video of that hour-long video that they sent us. The problem is it's going to be void of the things needed to accomplish what I just said. If they've got existing tribal knowledge at their site and they're not worried about onboarding folks and they don't really need it to capture everything, that's fine, but that's a different tool. That doesn't make the claim, that doesn't perform the claim that we're saying that we're committing to. Does that make sense, Bob? So that, and as far as how we go forward on that, absolutely, we can talk about that offline if you want to. But and even if it, at the end of the day, Bob, if we end up having to give them that other video work instruction, so what happened was we sent them the final product, which essentially was 2 video work instructions, even though the contract was for try it before you buy it for 1, right? And so we had to make a game time decision. Do we send them what we think is incomplete and not the tool that we told them that it was, or do we just go ahead and kind of bite the bullet for the next, for some more, basically our time and our expense, but but for us, we want them to see the power of the tool, right? And the power comes when they actually try it, when they actually bring somebody from the shipping department to come work in the punch press area on this video and see if they can do it right. That's when they see the power.
Sure. We appreciate that. Thank you.
Yep.
No questions from Pennsylvania. We're good.
No questions from Mike as well. I just wanted to learn more about your product, Josh. Thank you.
Okay. Sounds good.
Mike, who's Mike from IMEC?
Yeah, Mike, wait.
Mike, Bob Sabruta, how are you?
Oh, man, how are you doing? Been a long time.
Did you do solution selling today? That's the question.
Of course.
Mike, it's great to talk with you briefly. I appreciate that. That's super.
Yeah, likewise.
I thought I recognized the voice as soon as you started to go a little bit more, so.
Yep.
Good. That's all we have in Pennsylvania.
Okay. Great. Julio, you have anything else?
No. I guess we'll look forward to your visit to Puerto Rico shortly.
Okay, sounds good. I'm just gonna say my cell phone number for anyone who's curious and wants to write it down. And I think pretty sure everyone has access to my email. If you logged onto this call, then then you probably have access to my email, or someone does. But my phone number is 754-252-8167. And Bob, I definitely would like to go into, and Andy will go into more detail with you about Onyx and that second video. Let's just talk about it. It's not a big deal, but like I said, it would have been a great big deal if we would have given them something that they couldn't have used for what we told them they could use it for, So great. Well, if there isn't any other questions, I will let you guys go put your turkeys in the oven, and you have a great holiday, and hopefully we'll be doing business together soon.
Thank
All right.
you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.